And in high school, my dad's commander came to me and he said, look, we know your family, we know your position, we know that you are really good at debating and talking to people and convincing people, and your grades are good and you're a good Christian. So we want you to be part of this group, and you are going to take women away from practicing Islam to basically being free and feminist and living their lives. So my mentality was these poor women. I really had no clue what Islam was. I'd never really studied it or learned about it. In school we have the classes. In our book in high school it said that Muhammad was an epileptic and he would have epileptic fits. He would get drunk, and I mean it was just horrible stories that were not true. They knew that taking people away from Islam is very difficult, but to make them weak Muslims was easy. I remember once I was having a conversation with the daughter of a general, and it was in the 1970s when the Iranians took over the American embassy and they were holding them captive, and I was like, why don't our fathers just go over there and destroy all of them? And she said, I was just asking my father that last night, and what he said was that with most people, it is the fear of death, the fear of annihilation that keeps them in control, and America's able to control them that way. But when people practice Islam, they don't fear death, so you can't control them. I remembered that later when I became a Muslim. I was like, oh, now I get it. I was in my third year of the university, and while I was in the university, I was learning about Islam in the evenings. During the day, I had my normal classes in international relations. In the evenings, I was sitting with a group of Christians, and well, actually it was mostly Jews, that would teach me Quran and Hadith and how to play with it. You know, in the Quran, it says to take your veil and to put it over your bosom. Well, it doesn't say over your head. It says over your bosom. So if you wear a shawl, you're doing what the Quran says. So somebody who doesn't have a lot of knowledge of Islam and doesn't know that the women were already covering their head and it was just fixing the hijab, not that they didn't have to cover their head, it'd be easy to misguide them. So they were teaching me to do these types of things. But in order to do that, I had to read Quran. I had to read Hadith. And I fell in love with the Quran. I never made it out of the university even, because in my third year, I became a Muslim. When I took the Shahada, I felt something I never felt before. I was saying Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, and I felt like there was something heavy on my chest that had been ripped off. I literally went, and it was as if for the first time in my life, I had breathed in. I called my father, who at that time was in Germany, and I was like, I became a Muslim. And his words, are you crazy? Have you been brainwashed? What's wrong with you? He wasn't happy, of course. And he told me, that's it. I'm sending a ticket. Tomorrow you'll be on a plane on your way to Germany. And I told him I can't. I said, I can't deny it. This is the truth. I cannot deny it. He told me he's sending me a ticket, which he did. It was delivered to the house the next day. And he said, if you don't take this ticket, I no longer have a daughter, you're dead to me. And wallahi, it's only from Allah that I was able to survive that, because I was very close to my family. But again, it was only from Allah. Only from Allah, because I'm not strong. I know that I'm not a strong person. But Allah gives you what you need. I put on hijab the day I became Muslim. As soon as my professor saw me, he's like, what are you doing? I explained that I had become a Muslim, and he's like, you recognize you've lost everything. So they threw me out of the university. Basically, these people run the university. They're basically, you know, the organization, the people that are within it, they basically are the dean and the president and these type things. He knows that I love fast cars. He bought me a Ferrari. He's like, it's yours if you take off your hijab. But I had to say, I'm sorry. Dunya or Allah? Which do I want? And it was, you know, very simple to choose, alhamdulillah. I was able to pay my rent. I was able to pay basic things that I needed. But by the end of the year, essentially, which is why to this day I don't really like pasta very much with red sauce, only thing that I could afford to buy was tomato paste, a few spices, and macaroni, because I was broke, completely broke. But then Allah opened the door. SubhanAllah. My father by that time was in Puerto Rico. He was the base commander in Puerto Rico. He called me and he said, there's been a threat on the lives of all of us that work on the military and federal buildings here. All of these positions, them and their families have been threatened by a group of people who wanted Puerto Rico to be independent. So my father called me and he's like, you'll have security at your house within an hour. And he sent a Marine to my house to guard. After that, I was there for like a couple of days. And then he flew me to where he was in our home in South Carolina. And he took me back at that moment. I can't blame my father. If you love someone, he loved me, I'm his daughter, you want to save them from what you think is a mistake. So he figured this spoiled brat, if I take away the money, if I take away the family, if I take away all the things that she loves, she'll come running back. And I didn't. And he might have made it longer, giving me a chance to come back, but now I'm in danger. So he said, forget all that, let me just get her back. And that's what he did. So from that moment, alhamdulillah, he took care of everything.